Well, Efma was created just over 2 years ago by some visionary founders, Jason Bates, Simon Taylor and David Breer. And what's unique about them is that they got the ability to get things done with very few people very quickly. So, for example, there's a promise that they could launch a digital bank for a large bank within 11 weeks. So that's a capability that they've developed in the last couple of years, which is unique. Equally, benchmarking digital banking services using Pulse, which is one of the unique services that they offer as research, which again, you don't see coming from other consulting groups. And in particular, I think it's finally created a consulting company that doesn't have their retention up their backsides. I think the radical change is that a future banker has to be someone who can partner and not be controlled. In terms of every banker historically is a bit of a control freak, and they want everything internalized. They want everything managed by their people, and no one else steps in because it's risky and it could be causing insecurity. And yet now, with open APIs, with open data and open source structures, you can share and collaborate with lots of specialist companies. And as long as it's permissioned and as long as you've obviously got the hashed data rather than giving away the full data, then it's very easy to collaborate with thousands of specialist companies. And I think what's happening right now, and it's quite interesting because JP Morgan, you might be surprised, is my illustration of this, is that there's a chart I saw very recently of JP Morgan's marketplace of partners, which included Movin and Simple and Stripe and others. And they've curated these to bring those to their customers as a great experience for their customers. And the customer can trust JP Morgan, has vetted those companies for them, and therefore they're good to work with. And that picture 2 years ago or 3 years ago was called unbundling the bank, whereas actually now the bank is rebundling the fintech. Obviously, leading question towards my new book, Digital Human, which talks about 5 revolutions of humanity and the fact that right now we're in the 4th revolution. And very quickly, the first was becoming human, where Homo sapiens dominating the earth because we have shared beliefs and a voice. The second revolution was becoming civilized, still questionable in some countries, but becoming civilized was the Northern Africa to Middle East Fertile Crescent with the Babylonians, the Phoenicians, and these ancient civilizations that created money, which was a control by government of societies to keep them civilized. And then the third revolution was becoming commercial and industrial and global, which is through the Industrial Revolution in the last 300 years, where we invented banks to be trusted as stores of value and issuers of value using paper currencies. And now we're in this 4th revolution where every human on earth is connected in real time through the network if they want to be. And the inclusion that that brings is phenomenal because until the last decade, 1 in 3 people were banked, so 2 out of 3 were unbanked. Now we have the opportunity for everybody to get access to the financial network. And it's not banking as we know it, it's a new form of financial inclusion based on micro savings, micro loans, micro payments, micro investments, micro everything. And you can move transactions of 1 cent for the same price as $1 billion. It's just a transfer of data. And that's the radical change, that the whole planet is connected and included. And there is actually a 5th revolution coming shortly after this, which is when we become multiplanetary. Elon Musk's vision of living on Mars. You may think it's stupid, but 100 years ago it would have been stupid for me to have flown in from Miami this morning. So when that happens, we'll have the Star Trek vision of the future where money is irrelevant, wealth doesn't drive us, we focus on the betterment of humanity. It's a really optimistic future. There's a lot of discussion right now that technology is democratizing the planet. And so the risk is for governments rather than citizens, because transparency comes through the network. And the Arab Spring, for example, we all thought was a phenomena of social media. It hasn't led to the results that everyone thought, which is democratizing the Middle East. There's still huge problems across the region. But the transparency you get through the network of seeing what's happening in the region, and not just in that region, but anywhere in the world through the network, if you want to find that information, is democratizing the planet and bringing an awful lot more truth to people. And I think that's a good thing. Well, the book's focusing on financial inclusion and the democratization of money across the planet, and the fact that everyone can get access to trading and networking, and also much better services through artificial intelligence, robotics, blockchain, distributed ledger, cryptocurrencies, the whole nature of how technology is changing the financial structures. And in particular, what impressed me about Ant Financial and Alipay, which is a sister company of Alibaba, is that they're not Chinese, they're global. And they're the only global company that has the vision of using technology for inclusion and delivering that vision for inclusion. And my favourite example of that is that they've partnered with quite a few companies in other countries to bring mobile financial inclusion to those countries, like Ascent Money in Thailand, Globe Telecom in the Philippines, and in particular Paytm in India. And I interviewed Vijay Shankar Sharma, who's the founder of Paytm, for the book. And his story is quite amazing because he built the vision of bringing Alibaba and Alipay to India, and now has built a company with about 300 million active mobile wallets, with a vision of 500 million people being banked by Paytm by the end of this decade. And Vijay was homeless 10 years ago. He was living on the streets, sofa surfing with his friends. He'd been bankrupted by some of what he thought were his friends. And he was actually choosing between, do I walk to an interview so I can eat, or do I catch the bus and starve? You know, that's literally the choice he had. Today, he's India's youngest billionaire, worth almost $10 billion, 39 years old. That's what financial inclusion is about.